Hi, it's Daphne. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be doing the Déjà Vu tag. I was tagged by Eliza from Eliza's bookshelf. Thank you for tagging me, and let's jump right in. The first question is, do you reread and how often? And yes, I do reread. I reread probably like a few times a year, and not like on purpose. They're just books that like be like, oh yeah, that was a good one, I should reread that. Or I'll just reread parts of books that I really liked. But yeah, I'd say probably on average, I'll reread at least one full book. But I'm gonna say like 1 to 3. Next question is, why or why don't you reread? I reread because the books are like my favorite books and I just wanna experience them again, or I forgot what happened in the story, especially if it's a series. I'll reread the books to like refresh my memory so I can move on to the next one. I did that recently with From Blood and Ash. I reread the first 2 books so I could finally get to the 3rd one. I'll also reread like my favorite scenes. So if I just recently finished, or like maybe a couple months ago, finished a romance book that I just keep thinking about, I'll just reread my favorite parts. I did that the other day. What are my favorite books to reread? So I love rereading romances. It just gives, especially if they give me like the warm fuzzy feelings. It's not even like knowing what the plot is gonna be. It's just re-experiencing those emotions and like bubbly feelings that is so fun and fresh, even on reread. So romance is my favorite books, is like my favorite genre to reread. So yeah, and then I'll also like to reread books from like my childhood that were like really pivotal and stick with me in my brain. So I'll reread like The Giver, which is a classic book for sure. And then I also recently reread Lord of the Flies, which is a book that stuck with me so like strong in my mind from high school, and it was actually amazing on reread. I think I appreciated it more as an adult. And then I'll also read like teenage year favorites. So this is The Host. This was like my first book love. I was in love with Ian from this book, and I reread this recently as an adult, and I still had a great time. Is it perfect? No. But the nostalgia makes the reread so fun. Then it asks me, what books do I want to reread? So one that I've been thinking about lately is one to watch. I've been watching a lot of like Bachelor Nation stuff. The Bachelorette just wrapped up. Bachelor in Paradise just started. So I want to reread One to Watch. This is a fun like reality, like Bachelor World TV show with a curvy heroine as the lead. And it was just a fun time. And I like know who like wins and I know the outcome, but it was just still an enjoyable time. So I've just been like looking at this like, you are back on my radar. I want to reread you. Like cover to cover too, you know? And then I also have been thinking about All Roads Lead Here by Mariana Zapata as a potential reread. I'm not in a rush to reread it because I have a lot of Mariana Zapata books on my TBR still. But this is a romance about a woman kind of like trying to find herself again. She goes back to her hometown where her mother actually went missing in the woods. It's like in Colorado, so there's a lot of hiking. And she's just trying to get over that like pretty much trauma, honestly, because she was a young child when her mother went missing, and her falling in love with a local guy. It's leans, I'd say like 80% women's fiction, but I really actually enjoyed it. I like seeing her find herself and stuff, and I think I would also enjoy rereading that. And then 2 other books that are my all-time favorite books, and I talk about them all the time, are The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. Would love to reread this. It's a mystery with like a Groundhog's Day situation, and I think on reread, even if I know what happens, I think I can appreciate the nuances more because this is a beautiful masterpiece. And I think it honestly needs to be reread just so I can see how he laid the pieces together. It was just so beautiful. And then my other like all-time favorite book is Anxious People. I would love to reread this, even though I know like the big surprise at the end, but just the conversation on like human relationships and like people learning to understand each other, and like it's just so freaking heartfelt, and it's more than just the plot. It's all about the characters, it's all about the people, and I just want to like feel that again. It was amazing. It was an amazing time. So I would love to reread this as well. Probably not this year, but you know, someday. What book do I predict will be so good I'll want to reread it? So I've put The Kingmaker by Kennedy Ryan. I obviously haven't read this yet, but Kennedy Ryan's writing is just so amazing, and she does romance so well, and she makes such intense situations and makes you feel such intense emotions. I can't just like, I think I would reread this book for sure. I have high hopes. I don't know what it is, but it sounds like an enemies to lovers kind of situation, and hopefully an alpha hero. I love an alpha hero. So cross my fingers that I love this so much I'd want to reread it. Okay, the next question says, pick a book from your younger years you think you'd be interested in rereading. I'm gonna pick this one behind me, The Kite Runner. I'm not really in a rush to reread it because this literally ripped my heart out when I was in high school and I had to read this. But I do want to reread it at some point. I actually just picked up this used copy this past year with the intentions of rereading it. This is a story about two boys in Afghanistan, and a traumatic situation happens to one of the boys and it haunts them for the rest of their lives, and the other boy feels a lot of guilt about the situation. I don't remember all that much about it, but I think it would be very interesting to read as an adult versus as like a 15-year-old. The next question is a book that is so complex you need to reread to understand. I have the perfect book for this. So I'm gonna say Q-Teen 84. I know you can't really see the title because the ring light is so bright, but I'd say Q-Teen 84 for this question. It is massive, right? This is Chase's bookmark here. He's had this book for literally years. And I did finish this book maybe a year ago, or 2 years ago by now. I don't know. But I had made my way partially through it for the longest time and then gave up, and then decided like 2 years ago to give it another try. But like, it's such a fever dream. Like, there's fantasy stuff going on, but like I couldn't wrap my head around what had happened. So I needed to start over. And when I say I started over, like I had to reread like 500 pages. This book is like 1,150 pages long. So I really needed to reread those pages because a lot was going on and a lot of it didn't make sense because it was like a fever dream. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this book. If you're adventurous, like sure, give it a try, but like there's a lot of weird stuff going on in here that was yucky, that I didn't like. Okay, the next question is, what genre has the best or worst reread potential? So best genre for me is romance. Obviously, I love romance. The worst is anything that has like a pivotal reveal that ruins the fun of the rest of the book. So obviously that's gonna be like mysteries and thrillers. But like I said, like with Evelyn Hardcastle, it's about the journey. So if it's not about the journey and it's just about like what's the reveal, I don't think that would be fun. Is there a book you like less or more upon reread? I would say this one, Pride and Prejudice. Obviously this is a classic. I read this when I was a teenager for the first time and I was like, oh yeah, that's a classic. Everybody says it's like a romance, da-da-da-da-da. And I had never read a classic like this before. So I was anticipating like a contemporary style classic or like a historical romance kind of classic where maybe it takes place in historical time, but it's still like sexy. You know, this is not a sexy book, and it was not written in a time where that was like really acceptable, as far as I would assume. So yeah, I like really hated it the first time. I was like not getting what I wanted, and I was confused. Like I didn't understand what was happening because it's a lot of like parlor talk and all that stuff. But I reread it as an adult and I took my time with it. My expectations were much better and I kind of knew like the basic elements of where it was going and like what to expect out of their interactions with each other, and I enjoyed it so much more. And then the last question is a book you would like to reread by the end of this year. Wow, I am just destroying my shelves. So that's an easy one. I'd love to get to the Poppy War as a reread this year and continue on the series going into 2023. I don't think I'm gonna like pick this up in the next 2 months, but ideally I could kickstart rereading this series, or like rereading this one and then continuing on to book 2 for the first time ASAP. I just have so many books to read. It's the struggle, guys. It's a struggle. So that's why I've been hesitating on this series, because I know I want to reread this and then read the other ones like fairly close together. And that's a commitment. So I've just been prioritizing other things. But yeah, it would be great if I got to this by the end of the year. So that's it for this tag. I'm gonna leave the other booktubers I'm tagging down below in the description. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in another video. Bye!